You're online shopping and like the look of two items. How many of us would admit to buying both with the intention of returning one? Well, have you ever thought about what happens to that returned item? New research from Where, the sustainable clothing care company, has found that 40% of Brits believe it's sold back to consumers at full price, when in fact a huge chunk of returns actually end up in landfill. Well, Jonathan Hewlett, the CEO at Where, is with me now. Jonathan, thank you for joining me. Firstly, let's talk a little bit about fast fashion. Kind of define what it is, because I'm not sure where the line is in terms of fast fashion, because there are some places that I get told are fast fashion, but I've had a T-shirt from there for 20 years. So what exactly is it, and why do people return so much from there, do you think?
Well, that's a great question. I think the first thing to say is fast fashion is more of a behaviour than a brand, and the stats kind of are clear. We own 3 times as many clothes as we did just 20 years ago, and we keep them for half as long. So the idea of buying something, wearing it a few times, and then disposing of it, which would have been something completely alien to our parents' generation, or even again not so many years ago, now becomes a normal behaviour. So that's what fast fashion is. To combat it, it requires behaviour change. It requires us to sort of stop and think: do we really need that new item? How many of those have we already got in the wardrobe? And what else have I got that could potentially be a perfectly good substitute for the thing that I'm considering buying? That's the first sort of thing that needs to happen, is the mindset. The second thing is bringing to the fore, as it were, an understanding for everybody of what it takes to get those items to you, what it takes to return them, and ultimately what happens to them. Because if we don't see any of this stuff, how do we know whether or not it's responsible behaviour or not? And that's if you think about, we live in an information-rich society. We want information on everything, whether it's sort of food ingredients, or whether it's carbon footprint by booking this flight. And I think getting that information out there to help people understand the consequences, the unintended consequences of their actions, such as I'll order 3 and send 2 back because I don't know what size I am, needs to be needs to be a bit more visible.
What needs to change then? What do you guys do a bit differently? And the fact in your research, a lot of people might not know, why do companies send perfectly wearable items to landfill just because they've been returned and haven't been worn for more than 10 minutes in front of someone's mirror?
It all comes down to complexity of movement and management of that product. If it costs more to get it back, to unbox it, to reprocess it, to rebag it, to reticket it and put it back on the shelf than it does in terms of the revenue or the profit they're going to get from that item, then of course the tendency will be, well, we'll take the cheapest option. And that, unfortunately, is creating this phenomenon where we're throwing away up to 34 tons of clothes literally every day in the United Kingdom. So that's where the crunch comes.
How does our mindset need to change then, and what do you guys do at Where that tries to counteract that?
Well, I think the mindset can be changed by not necessarily punishing that behaviour, but more about incentivising the right kind of behaviour. So imagine a website where you're a loyal customer, you're a member of their programme or their club or whatever, and you have an order history with them. The more efficient that order history is, the more rewards you can get. Something to incentivise the consumer to behave in the right way when it comes to ordering, returning, trying, not buying, etc. I think that's the first thing. How can we make it? We don't want to make it not easy for people to carry on doing what they do today, but rewarding the right kind of behaviour, I think, is the way forward. Now, what we do is, we have an electrical device, a cleaner, if you like, that cleans pretty much anything, whether it's a pair of shoes or a fabric-based item or clothing. We can clean and restore things very quickly, so that whatever comes back can be repurposed, and made new again, so it can be sold at full price and so on and so forth. So that's where we're trying to help. We're trying to help in if you like, that reprocessing of goods that are in the chain to give them a second life and a brand new one.
Jonathan, thank you very much for joining me.
Not at all. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Jonathan there from Wear, the sustainable clothes company. Now, staying with the environment.